In today's video, we make custom Grimoire treasure piles for use in Frostgrave, fantasy war games in the Frozen City, your favorite RPG, or any fantasy tabletop miniatures game. Well, hi everybody, it's Lee from SkirmishWargames.com. Welcome to the channel. And a few days ago, we posted our first on-screen game of Frostgrave, fantasy war games in the Frozen City from Osprey Games. Now, of course, if you're playing Frostgrave, you need treasure tokens, and that can be anything from wooden chips to glass beads to leftover game tokens or things from the bits box. But in our case, we use some RPG treasure miniatures. This is a metal treasure pile from Reaper Miniatures, and this is a resin chest from WizKids, part of their pre-primed Dungeons & Dragons miniatures line. We also have this cool retro miniature here. This is a rat on top of a treasure chest from the year 2000. This is from Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to paint him up probably for the next game of Frostgrave because he's too cool not to use. So in addition to the store-bought treasure piles that we painted up and glued to bases, Lynn wanted to try her hand at making some custom treasure piles for Frostgrave, and so she made these piles of grimoires using polymer clay, and it was kind of a neat little process and didn't take very long. It was sort of easy, but the end result was pretty cool. So we thought, well, we'll do a little video here on how to make these in case you're interested in making your own grimoire piles for a game of Frostgrave at your house. And giving credit where it's due, we should mention this guy was sort of the inspiration for the books. Your books are actually a little bit larger, but he was the base point of reference. And this is an old archive miniature from late 70s and used for actual Dungeons & Dragons and made out of old-fashioned lead. Maybe if my current Frostgrave wizard gets killed, then we'll have to bring the lead mini out of retirement. Okay, so show us what you did here, and for the uninitiated, what is polymer clay?
Polymer clay is an oven-baked clay that hardens into a solid shape, but it's workable until you do bake it.
Okay.
So it makes it easy for sculpting.
Now, is it sticky like green stuff, or is it?
It is not sticky. It's more like Play-Doh.
Okay. So you mold it the way you want, you shape it, and then you bake it in the toaster oven or whatever, or the regular oven for a few minutes, what, 15 to 20 minutes, something like that?
It's 30 minutes per quarter inch at 275.
Okay.
So I use the translucent Sculpey, which is number 10. You can also use colored ones if you don't want to paint as much.
So you're talking about the color of the actual pages within the binding. So if you wanted something that was already started out looking like weathered parchment, that might be a way to go.
That might be the way to go. I just used translucent because I had that open already, left over from another project.
Yeah. So a package of polymer clay like that, how much is that basically?
So it ranges anywhere from $1.29 to $2.29 depending on where you get it.
Okay, dirt cheap, and you could make a lot of treasure tokens out of that.
You sure could.
So we're starting the process of making our treasure tokens. You basically carved off a hunk.
Yep.
And what's the consistency of that, pretty much?
So it starts out as pretty breakable. So you gotta roll it between your hands until it gets pliable, so
Okay.
it's not, so it's more
So warm it up.
elastic. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you just take off however much you want for your books. And then you just form it into a rectangle. Pretty quick and easy. And then I just used sculptor tools to put the pages in. And round the edges where
Round the
for
binding.
the binding, yeah. And that's all it takes to make a book.
To make your ancient grimoire.
Yeah, to make your ancient grimoire.
Because it's been formed by hand, it's just kind of shaped enough that it looks like it's been sitting on the shelf for a couple of centuries.
Some edges might be a little dog-eared from
Right,
all the
right.
wizards looking at it. Or it could have been stuck in a dank dungeon.
Got a little water damage, a little mold,
In Frostgrave, that could definitely happen because it's been under ice.
a little freezer burn.
A little freezer burn.
So the edge in that sculpting tool, that's just basically making your pages, and then you can flatten out the binding part.
Mm-hmm. And then you just make sure that the one edge is a little rounded for your binding, and there you go.
Okay. And your stacks pretty much have 3 grimoires on them, but you could do more or less.
You could also do an open book.
Right.
If you wanted to in the pile. If you had a bigger base, you could do piled ones and flat ones.
Sure. So using this, it'd be pretty easy to make potion bottles or relics or basically whatever if you wanted to make some custom treasure tokens. It wouldn't take much at all.
Really easy to work with, and it doesn't harden until you bake it, so you got plenty of time to mess with it.
Right.
You can get it as detailed as you want.
And once it's baked, what is the consistency of it then? Is it...
It's pretty hard. It's between clay and plastic.
Okay. So as long as you don't smash it on a hammer or drop it on the stone floor, you should be fine.
I've dropped them on the stone floor.
Okay.
I mean, these little ones aren't heavy enough to get
Right.
damaged.
Right. So, yeah, it's pretty sturdy.
I mean, you wouldn't want to poke it with something really sharp
Right.
because it'll get dings in it. But, you know, unless you want dings in it, then
Right.
you can do that. So you just repeat that. Doesn't take long at all. And then after that, we'll bake them and then paint them up, glue them onto their bases, and you'll be set. Have another stack of grimoires ready for your treasure heap.
Some are mystical grimoires, and some are like how to brew beer, how to store your vegetables.
And some might even just be the barkeep's tab.
That's right. The taxman's ledger.
Taxman's ledger, yeah.
We lost 4 members of our war band for some old accounting books. Yeah, I think the unevenness of them is actually what makes them look realistic. Especially this one here, that looks...
The pages look really dog-eared.
Yeah. Well, it looks like an old leather-bound edition that's been well used and sort of, it's misshapen in spots, like it was in a stack or someone's been carrying it under their arm. And so your process for making those 6 there, those 7, was that about 5 minutes, 7 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, great. So we're going to take a second. We're going to put these in the oven and bake them up, show you how that goes, and then paint them up, stack them up, glue them on a base, and we'll be done. Okay, so we got our toaster oven out here. We've plugged it in, and this is a metal pan, and you put what?
Parchment paper on it.
Parchment paper on it. All right, so it won't stick.
Because not much sticks to parchment paper, which is the nice thing, and you can bake it. So.
Not even green stuff, apparently.
Not even green stuff.
Okay, so that's it. We put our grimoires on the pan, and
in they go.
And you're thinking about 20 minutes?
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
Okay, so how long did you leave those in there for?
For 20 minutes, which it looks like might have been a little long.
Oh, we baked them. We've overbaked the brownies.
We overbaked the brownies, which for our purposes isn't a big deal. They're probably a lot thinner than a 1/4 inch, so I probably only needed to put them in for about 10 minutes.
Okay. They're brownish, that's okay. Books can be brown.
Mm-hmm. This one we might not even need to paint. He's
Well,
a good color there.
You're going to want to paint the pages and all that.
Yeah, I'll paint the pages on this one. Well, normally I
Yeah.
wouldn't have to paint the pages, but on this one we'll paint the pages.
Yeah. All right. So with that particular polymer that you used, it should be clear at this point? Or?
It's usually translucent.
Okay.
But it got a little too hot
Okay.
or a little too long.
These will
Probably
be fine.
'cause- yeah, they'll be fine because we're just going to paint them anyway.
All right.
But if you were leaving them natural, then
Right.
yeah.
That's
So
okay.
measure them before you put them in. We didn't measure them. These are probably only about 1/8 of an
The-
inch instead of a 1/4 of an
The
inch.
brownies are overbaked, but we're
Yeah.
going to eat them anyway.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's paint them up.
Okay.
Okay, so you baked them in the oven and maybe a little bit overdone, but because they're books, that's not too bad. Looks
No,
like
they actually came out almost to some of the colors that I actually painted my other ones.
they're almost pre-painted.
Yeah, they're almost pre-painted, and so you could just take those that way
Yeah, just paint
and
the
stack
pages.
them and just paint the pages, and you'd be set. So just overbake your translucent a little bit, and you're set. So I just took a little bit of dead white that I'm going to use for the pages. And I'll just do that for the pages. And if you thin it a little bit, it kind of goes on and leaves.
Yeah.
So you don't have to highlight afterwards.
So you still see a little bit dark between the pages showing through.
Yeah. And that one's done already. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's the advantage to overbaking.
Grimoire is fresh out of the oven.
Grimoire is fresh out of the oven. I think I'm going to overbake them more often. For grimoires, that's easy. Easy peasy. I got 3 different colors of brown here, and then we'll paint some of the other ones regular colors. or different colors just
for some visual variety.
for some visual variety. Just wipe off the edges. It comes right off. Now, some model paints will not work on sculpting. It'll turn all sticky. So test it on one beforehand.
But these acrylics seem to be fine.
Yeah, the acrylics seem to be fine.
So these were bone white and then a little sepia wash to make them yellow on the original stack.
Or it might have been earth tone. Could have been earth tone too. Play around, see what you like.
Now, so you'll wash some of them and then others you won't, and
Yep.
just mix and match.
Yep, to get the look you want. So I also ended up doing a black gray book and an orange brown book. And take some Agrax Earthshade and thin it out a little bit more than it already is.
So it's not quite as earth-shady.
Yeah, so it's not quite as dark. Because we just want it a little bit so it just kind of gets into the grooves. So to base those, I just used the 20mm round familiar base from Reaper, the base boss. And those are the perfect size for those little books and the little chests.
Okay, so you would just make a stack.
Yep.
Like making a cairn.
Yep, making a cairn.
Oh, that's a super tall stack.
Yeah, because since we had 4 books, 1 extra book, we can turn it the other direction.
All right.
And then we got our other stack.
And then base them how you like. We kind of left our black bases black for the moment, but we'll probably paint them like a stone gray or something at some point. Okay, and that's all there is to it. So, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to shape them, put them in the oven for 20 minutes, and then
However long it takes you to paint them.
10-15 minutes to paint them, and you're done pretty much. Well, folks, thanks very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this mini tutorial on how to make a Grimoire pile for Frostgrave, your favorite RPG, or any tabletop game where you need a treasure pile or an objective marker. If you like what we do here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please give this video a big thumbs up and visit us online at our website, skirmishwargames.com.